The conversation today is something that I am super excited that I got to have, and is the start of half of a podcast that we all love. So let me introduce you to Tykeia N. Robinson, PhD baby, aka Dr. Kia, co-hosts the Getting Grown podcast on the Loudspeakers Network, a show by, for, and about Black women and men who are negotiating the changes and challenges of the worst hood, adulthood. Dr. Kia and her co host, Chef Jade of all Jades, Ferretti, have grown the Getting Grown community of listeners to include over 28 million people since 2017. As a scholar of change and transformation and a storyteller, Tykeia brings her personal experience and professional expertise to conversations about the transitions, triumphs, trials, twists and turns of adulting. Her passion in higher education is in crafting and translating rigorous research and scholarship into practical tools that illuminate the processes of how organizations and the people that they are comprised of learn, function, change, and transform to serve all priorities and stakeholders with excellence and equity. Y'all buckle up. We talked, we laughed, we cried, we did it. So, y'all, we got Dr. Kia. Fabulous. I'm excited for this conversation. I love having this podcast because I think that we learn from conversations. I think we learn from other people's stories. And this leads me to my first question, which makes people cringe, which makes me happy. Who are you?
Oh, that is a very cringe-worthy question. But I will try my best to answer it. My name is Tykeia. My friends call me Kia. And I see myself in a lot of different ways. But first and foremost, I am a daughter. I am a sister. I'm a Black woman. I am a believer. I am a scholar. I am a storyteller. And I live in the pursuit of all things fabulous.
Ooh.
But I see myself as a lifelong learner who is committed to sharing lessons that we learn and translating scholarship into practice. What are the things that help us to be better and to operate in purpose? I want to be fruitful, and I want to live a life that will make my mother and my brother proud.
I love that. That was so deep.
Was
How
it?
do we meet? Yeah, I think so.
We met through when you graced us at the kitchen table on my podcast, which was Getting Grown, and we talked to you about your work as a trauma specialist. So I was introduced to you through Jade and XD, and a lot of other people that I care about a great deal.
I love that. Talk about me behind my back if it's good. Only if it's good.
Yeah.
What does trauma mean to you?
Um, to me, trauma is sort of anything that interrupts our state of homeostasis. It is and that could sort of range in sort of size and the degree of intensity, but anything that disturbs sort of our state of equilibrium and normativity and our peace in appreciable and substantial ways. So for a long time, I thought of trauma as, just major events or drastic changes. But I'm coming to realize that there are smaller jabs that accumulate over time that also can have a traumatic impact on
They add up.
who we are, for sure.
They
For
add
sure.
up. They
Yeah.
add up. So I
Mhm.
always like to ask my guests, like, what do they want to talk about and all the things. And everyone was like, we already know what you need to talk to her about. Education
Oh,
and
God.
grief is about to go down. And I said,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Okay.
you know what? That's what I like to talk about. So this is fabulous. I'm
Right.
a roots girl. And so when I say that is I think it's really important to know where we come from
Mm.
and how we got here because we didn't just show up as these magical ladies. We were little girls
Right.
and we went through things. So who were you before we got that doctor in front of your
Mhm.
name? Like what
I
did you want to be when you grew up? Who were you?
well, oddly enough, I'm working very hard to be who I wanted to be when I was a little girl. But uh, uh, little Takia was curious, and recognized pretty early that she is able to adapt to her conditions when she has some sense of understanding.
Mm,
And so she's always asked a lot of questions. She's always wanted
mhm,
to gain understanding, to get clarity. What's happening? Why is it happening? Where are we going? Why how are we going to get there? Like these are that's the kind of little girl I've always been. And my mom
mhm.
characterized that as nosy, but I think in
Same,
my
same.
in in my constant evolution, at my great big age, I have come to reframe that as a genuine earnest curiosity. I am at peace when I have understanding, and so
Yeah.
when I can process and gain understanding by any means, I feel most like myself.
Mm,
And so little Takia always knew, and I was talking to one of my friends about this recently as we sort of process in different phases of our lives and who we are. And I was never the little girl that dreamed about, you know, Prince Charming or, a big church wedding. I kind of thought that those things sort of would happen because in my mind, they just happen naturally or automatically for most adults. But I was the little girl that dreamed about being a doctor. Like I always wanted to be really smart. And, when I was a young girl, my parents divorced and I took that very hard. And so my mom actually, I spoke to a child psychologist. I was probably 9 or 10,
mm.
but I remember him. It was a black man in Harlem, and he drove a green Lexus, and his license plate was Dr. Reese. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. I just was so enamored with that. And so in my mind, I was going to be a doctor, and my license plate would one day say Dr. Kia.
Hello.
And so that's what I dreamed about. And I sort of found my way through schooling, still thinking that, not really fully understanding all the different ways that I could be a doctor. So I sort of tried a lot of different things, ended up studying psychology through undergrad, um, and sort of tried my hand at a lot of different uh, types of psychology,
Mhm,
worked with adolescents, worked with young kids, found that those things weren't really my ministry, but found a sweet spot
mhm,
in the space of higher education because I felt like working with college age individuals was sort of like a happy medium of like, burgeoning adulthood that I felt safe.
mhm.
And so I sort of found my way into the field of higher education, and that's where I've been ever since, trying to understand. College is. I went to college in the year 2000, and I have not left. I'm still there. Uh, I'm still there, digging around and causing trouble. So that's
It'll get a hold on you, though. It as someone that is a lifetime student, like, in the pandemic when everyone was panicking, I was like, "Imma go to school." Like,
reading books.
"Girl."
I'm just gonna read. Yes, this
Yeah.
is
I was like,
that's
"I'm
it.
gonna learn about medicine
Yeah,
because we might need it,
yeah.
because I need to go with the ancestry. I need to learn
Hmm.
about all the herbs and things." So I got
Hmm.
another damn certificate because problems.
Right.
Um Oftentimes people are in my face like, "You should go be a doctor and get
Mhm.
a doctorate in psychology and do all these things." I don't think I want to. But
Mhm.
why did you do it? Did you feel like you had to? Like, I feel like sometimes in certain spaces, people
Mm.
don't respect me as much
Yeah.
because I don't have the little name.
Yeah. Awesome question, and I'm glad you asked because, from that little girl who wanted to be Dr. Kia, I got into the work of higher education and realized that I'm much more practical, um, in terms of, like, I felt like, uh, academics can sometimes, you know, in that research space, it's really easy to sort of get in the world of where you're only talking to other academics. And I
Yeah.
knew very, very quickly that I wanted what I was learning to translate into practice. So, I mean, I love research and I love scholarship, but the so what of it was kind of my bottom line. And in that vein, in higher ed, since that's like a practice, field, so to speak,
Mhm.
we I kinda got, I got a master's and then I got another master's, and it was like, well, I am out here, I'm working on campuses, I am working in administration, I'm contributing to sort of how things get done in this space, and I felt like I was doing all right. And
Yeah.
I had a really badass, white woman from the UK as a supervisor. She was the only woman in the civil engineering and engineering mechanics department, and I was her department administrator. And she was just like it was like 60 white men on the faculty and her. And she was very, but I loved because she handled those men. She did not sit quietly in the
Mm.
room. She did not allow them to talk over her. She just was real, like, and I loved working with her. I learned a
Yeah.
lot from her. And she had a very candid conversation with me one day after a department meeting. And she was like, Takia, you have excellent ideas and you're very bright, but nobody's going to listen to you. And I said, excuse
He's
me?
like, "What now?"
I'm sorry, what? She was like, "No one's going to listen to you. They're going to steal your ideas." And I was
Ooh.
like, "Please explain." She said, "In the academy, credentials are currency. And if you want people to take you seriously, you have to have what they have when you enter the room. So if you want people, if you want to have the influence in this field that I know you want to have, I would admonish you to go back to school." And she was like, thankfully, we work at a school and you can do it for free. So, I was like, okay. So I
Bet.
started the process of, I was working then thinking I was just going to stay in the administrative lens, but I got into the a program at Teachers College, Columbia University. That's where I was working at Columbia in the engineering school. So I
Mm.
got into the Teachers College at Columbia University. And there I felt like my research, the seeds were of my interest in research really started to germinate and take bloom. And I started to understand that as a researcher, I could still love research and I could take charge of sort of
Mm.
how I wanted to show up in the scholarly space. And so, things just worked out where I ended up transitioning out of that program where I was going to school full time and working still full time as a department administrator in the School of Engineering. And I was able to get into a fully funded doctoral program at the University of
Okay.
Maryland, where I ended up finishing and getting my PhD in higher education. And so, to you, I will say, and to anyone who asked me, you know, it's all about what you want to do with the information that you have, the learning, what you learn, what the kind of influence, the impact you want to. I was very intentional and strategic, and Dr. Culligan's advice has always sort of been what pushed me in that direction. But I don't think anyone should get a PhD or any sort of terminal doctoral situation unless they are very clear about how they want to show up
Mm.
in their field. And
Yeah.
I say if you are being impactful and having the kind of impact that you want to have, without that, then I don't know if it's necessary. But if there are certain things, I will say that that doctoral study affords you with a realm of options, and you
Yeah.
can sort of write your own ticket and create the ways that you want to be influential or impactful in your field, then, I recommend it, but it is not easy, especially for people who
Mhm.
look like us.
That was my next
So
question. You know it was coming. You know it was coming. We can't sit here as some
Yeah.
Black ladies and not
Mhm.
talk about how hard it is.
My God.
You not even at the door. Get into the parking lot
Mm,
sometimes is a journey. So how have you kept afloat looking healthy
mm.
and blessed?
Well,
'Cause oof.
uh, I would say truth and transparency and community have been sort of my saving graces in these spaces.
Mhm.
So, um, I was very intentional about, well, after certain experiences. So, like, my time at Teachers College was equal parts uh, traumatizing and inspiring.
Yep.
Um, so I feel like Columbia University in and of itself is an awesome place to learn. And I was always very excited to learn there, and it fueled my motivation and sustained my energy for the long haul that is graduate study. But at the same time, you're also exposed to the terrors of the academy in how those spaces can lack humanity, uh particularly for people of marginalized identities like me.
Yeah.
And so I did not have the best time there. So when it was time for me to move forward from that place, I was very clear that I needed to have a model and an exemplar. I needed somebody to show me how to be a Black woman in this field.
Yeah.
And so I was really intentional about seeking out a mentor and an advisor, someone who was doing similar work and who shared certain identity groups with me so that I can really have a model for how to negotiate some of these spaces. And that really was a game changer. And so she was very truthful, and she told
Mhm.
me the good, the bad, the ugly of the academy. And so I felt prepared for when things started to happen to me. And so building community was also a way that helped me keep moving forward. So as I was learning, and as my colleagues, as we were learning from the women of color that we had proximity to, we tried to share that um,
Yeah.
in a variety of ways. So building community digitally, um, you know, in person, just sort of creating spaces where we can have honest conversation about the highs, the lows, the difficulties, the challenges, the triumphs of negotiating grad school, you know, so getting that, people pouring into me and me being intentional about pouring back into others, were the things that sort of sustained me and kept me moving through the madness.
Do you think you're on the other side of the madness?
No, no. I think the madness evolves because, like, right now I am an academic, but I'm not working in the academy in ways that I used to. So
Mhm.
I transitioned from working like at a university, then I was working at an association for academics, so like a professional development organization, and now I'm working at a philanthropic organization that wants to have influence in the academy. And so I'm in the academy working in sort of a corporate space now, and so I find myself sort of living in two different worlds and having to
Yeah.
translate across those worlds. So
Yeah.
my madness has not I've not left the madness, but I'm sort of renegotiating it. I'm
Yeah.
engaging it in ways that I never have before, which has been
Mhm.
equal parts. It's been illuminating, but it has also been exhausting.
As hell, probably. As
Mhm.
as hell.
Yes.
As again, as a lifetime student myself, I was bored one day and I
Mhm.
said, "You should do another something." So I started researching rape investigation just to
Mhm.
again put that little paper to make it seem a little more So I was doing rape investigation and two masters, a master's in law with a focus in criminal justice. So it would have been all the things.
Mhm.
And so I was going through the motions. You know, you can't, C's don't get degrees in grad school, baby. They don't.
No.
And so they don't. So I
They
had
do not.
gotten two C's, but I was also navigating my ailing parents. So I was raised by
Mhm.
grandparents, as you know,
Mhm.
and my grandfather was dying. He
Mhm.
had cancer, and eventually he did pass away last year. And so the grief of it all
Mhm.
and navigating life, paying
Mhm.
bills, and functioning
Mhm.
is something we all go through.
For
Because
sure.
I could see your face. I see you have navigated a thing or two. How? What happened?
Yeah.
How did you do the things?
The thing that I feel like people will I won't say people, I'll say myself, like, sometimes we assume that because we're so focused on meeting this goal that life will wait for us to finish before
Mhm.
it starts to lifing. And so one of the things that I have learned through my own experience and by watching the experience of others, yourself included. Like, a lot of times life starts to life upside our heads, especially when we are sort of in grad school or in this learning space. Um, and nothing is off limits. Uh,
No.
Nothing is off limits. Birth, death, sickness, loss, loss of jobs, anything and everything happens, while you're in school. And so, it's about um, knowing that and giving yourself the space and the grace to do both to the best of your ability. Um,
Mhm.
and recognizing that, there is really no balance. People used to ask me all the time, how do you balance it all? It's like, I don't. So, like,
Mm.
in the times when I was hyper focused and dissertating and trying to finish, I missed a lot of family things. I missed a lot of, I had to stop doing the things that were sort of normal to me. And then once I finished, I was able to pick things back up. But, you know, how? I don't know. I think for me, that's a question I'm still learning to answer. I don't know if I share with you, but just 4 days before I was to defend my dissertation, my brother passed
Mm.
very suddenly, very traumatically. He was on vacation with his friends, and there was some sort of accident. The details are still very hazy and unclear. They have not been defined or clarified to my family to this day, but
Yeah.
he drowned. Um, and my whole entire world as I knew it just about ended. And I then had to learn how to be Tykeia without Brian. And
Mm.
my brother and I were only 18 months apart. And so I had no memory of life without him and no expectation that I would have to live without him. And
Yeah.
so I was at the very end of this journey, and we were making plans to go on a cruise and do things, since I had been so under my program. We were making plans for me to graduate and reconnect and us to start to spend time and do things together again. And all of that went away. And nobody asked me. I was
Mm.
not given any notice. And the weight of that loss still to this day takes my breath.
Yeah.
Um, because I still don't understand it. But I share that so that people know that you don't really always get to know how you do it, but over time, the things that help you to continue to show up and keep trying reveal themselves in you and around you, and you just keep going one day at a time.
Yeah. Grief feels like for me depends on the day. Some days I'm like,
Mhm.
Oh
Facts.
yeah. And
Facts.
this year was the first full year of
Mhm.
the things. And like I woke up on my birthday this year and I was sitting and talking to my partner and he was doing something and I was like, "Yeah." And then I just started bawling. And he turned on, he was like,
Mhm.
what did I say something?" And I was just like,
Mm-mm.
"Oh, I won't get a phone call today.
Mm-mm.
I
Mm-mm.
won't." I get emotional because it
Yeah.
is a thing and it's like, "Oh, I don't have these things. Oh shit, fuck." And it goes through the cycle of it. And it's grief is one of those things that like touches all of us and none of us are ever prepared for. Like
Right.
I wish somebody would be like, "Thank you for coming to this planet. Here's a book.
Yeah.
Some shit's
Yeah.
about to happen. Here's
Yeah.
some tools."
Yeah. It's true. And I wish I could tell you that that gets better. But as you grow, um, you will continue to grieve uh, how your reality does not align with your expectation.
Mhm.
And so, as I am negotiating different phases of my life, when my brother died, I was 33, and now I'll be 42 in December. And I never anticipate. My mom just turned 70, and my grandfather just turned 91. And
Ooh.
so all of the things that come with us transitioning through different, I have to support my mom in different ways. My
Mhm.
grandfather requires a different level of care and support. Um, there are people in my family that are negotiating various diagnoses of you know illness, or all kinds of things. And you never think, when I was a kid, I would never anticipated that I would have to do any of this by myself, because I always had a brother. Like, I always had a process partner, someone who shared the experience, and we can figure it out together. And so as things continue to arise, mommy
Yeah.
turned 70, and I have to plan her 70th. And it's like, I don't have nobody to help me think
Yeah.
that through. Like, I have to shoulder that. And so all of these things, um when I lost my grandma in 2022. And so all of these things, you just, everything, and it compounds. So to your
Yeah.
point, um my belief is that, since, like you said, grief is something that connects all of us, and it is, to me, not a steady state, but a process of
Mhm.
change and transformation.
Mhm.
As we grieve, we're continually evolving. And I feel like having language or examples for how we are negotiating that would be super helpful.
Mm.
And that, oddly enough, is sort of what is, I'm feeling a call to that idea. Like,
Mm.
I think it's the marriage of my work and my curiosity, the person who is trained to ask and answer questions. I want to understand what is grief, what is grief designed to teach us? How is grief designed?
Mm.
What is it? What is its purpose? What is its utility? It has to have some sort of something.
Yeah.
There's no way that it impacts all of us at one time, but in different ways, and at different paces. And so I don't have it all fleshed out or worked through, but I do feel like that's one of my next bigger projects, and sort of thinking
Mm.
about, is there a connection between sort of grief and loss and sort of purpose, or how we figure out what it is that we're supposed to be doing? What about your loss is informing how you show up in the world?
Mhm.
And what does that mean for all of us? And if there is a way to write that down, so that maybe one day we can hand somebody a book and say, this is coming, and you know this is how she got through it, and this is how they got through it, and this is how, not saying that there's one answer, but maybe there's a collection of stories that help
Yeah,
us to
I
figure it out.
I hope so. I hope so. And I want it to be called something wild. Like,
Yeah.
check it out, bitch. Like, you gonna need me or something that you're like,
It's
you get
like,
your
I
hands
hate
on
to say I told you, but I told you this day will
something,
come.
something. You
Yeah.
brought up community,
Yeah.
and I think as someone that has had her head down, me, and like just
Mhm.
done the things and not
Mhm.
taken time to like experience the things that I've done, it takes my friends to be like, hold on, bitch, we're about to celebrate you
Yeah,
because
that's
this
real.
is wild.
Same. Bigly.
What
Bigly.
is what is that? Because I feel like we're very much here
Agreed.
together. How do
Agreed.
you allow okay, here's the thing. How do you allow community to support you? Because we can have community, but it doesn't mean we always allow them to support us because we might not always know how.
I think yeah, that yes. So, um, I don't feel comfortable answering that question because I don't know that I do it well, but I will say
Yeah.
that, I'm grateful that I have been connected to people who don't allow me to miss those opportunities. Um, and I can't
Mm,
take credit for that. Like, I feel like God has put people in my life to help me in this regard because I feel like a lot of my programming, like a lot of Black women and a lot of eldest daughters out there, it was
listen,
about keeping your head down and doing what you're supposed to do, child. And you don't get a parade for doing what you're supposed to do. That's what my mom used to
you're
say.
supposed to
You
do
don't
it.
get a parade. You're supposed to do it. What you want? A
Yeah.
dollar? Like you don't get a
Maybe.
parade. So, but I have awesome friends and family members who is like, we're not finna let you skirt past this, okay? And they are cultivating or helping me to cultivate that skill set and that
Mm,
awareness. And so, like you said, it does not feel natural to my body at
no,
all.
my
Uh,
body be like,
it
no,
does not feel
stop
natural
it.
to my body at all. But my therapist and the people who love me are very intentional about helping me to grow that muscle and develop that muscle. And just like training in the gym, like we was talking about, training is not enjoyable and it often hurts, but it
It's
does,
not, I'm
it
going to the
does
gym after this. I don't want to
yeah,
go.
it
I'm
does
done.
it makes all the difference and it hurts before it helps. So, I have to do it. I did not plan a birthday, anything for myself until my 40th. Because my birthday is also 5 days before Christmas. And so as a child, it was always like everybody's with their families. People are otherwise predisposed. People are busy. It's the time. And so over time, I just sort of conditioned myself not to expect to do anything for my birthday. And then after I lost my brother, I felt guilty. Like what I'm
Mm,
having a party for. Like,
yeah.
and so I was very intentional about doing something for myself for my 40th birthday, doing something I've never done before. So I planned a birthday trip. And I was scared to death because I fully anticipated everybody to say, "Girl, you want us to go out of town before Christmas? Are you dumb?" But to my surprise, 14 people showed up in Antigua
That's beautiful.
to celebrate me. And it was a lesson. It was such a lesson and it humbled me so. And even though it was awkward and I was scared to death to invite and ask people to do this, the fact that they showed up helped me to see that there
Mm,
is some value in allowing yourself to celebrate yourself and to be celebrated
mm.
by other people,
Yeah, I mean, even if it's hard, even and
especially when it's hard.
we could teach people how to show up for us. I'm all about teaching somebody how to show up for me. I'm like, here's a list.
I'm learning
Thank,
that, child.
thank you so
Yeah.
much. Here's
I'm
a
learning that
list.
it's okay for me to have that because that also doesn't feel natural to my body.
Yeah, yeah. I've been trying to get out of the comfort zones,
Mm.
which feel they make me itch. But I do know that I am bigger than where I am.
Mm. Mm.
And so the only way we can get out of that is to say, all right, bitch,
Yeah. I
Here
hate this. Damn, this is
we go.
oh.
It's a lot of talking to myself.
Oh yeah. Easily.
And you mentioned balance earlier because that was one of my words that I was going to ask you is what does the word balance mean to you? And you were like, I don't know.
Nothing.
Um,
It don't mean nothing to me. It's a lie.
it
It's a
means
myth. It's a myth. It's a nice idea.
I I think balance looks different than for everyone,
Mm,
right? Like if we just look at how I look at how Beyonce balances her schedule, we're not on the same kind
no,
of schedule.
no,
So
no.
I need to look into me, who's a little broker, just like a little
Mm,
bit. We got different bank accounts, taxes
slightly,
and stuff, just
slightly.
like a little bit.
Mhm.
And so I have to look at, I don't have people to do these things. So what can I do to
Right,
like exist?
right.
Um, and something that another guest that I've had on the show, Thea Monier, talked about was joy
Mm,
and like how important joy is and how
mhm.
healing it is for us to be able to find ourselves, to find this
Yeah,
balance.
yeah. Music has been one of the things that's always brought that joy to me. And I remember somewhere I was at an event somewhere and I heard somebody say it's less about balance and reframed it and was like harmony. Harmony feels like a better
Mm,
word, right? And so there will be, there will because balance suggests that there's some sort of equilibrium, but harmony allows there to be sort of discord, and sometimes things don't go together, but they go together.
sure.
Um, um, Especially when we're thinking about sound, whether that's in terms of tone or amplification, harmony is what um is what feels good,
Mm,
even though it may not make sense like
mhm,
mathematically. um
mhm,
and so I love that idea of um joy because I feel like that reconnects the practical back to a feeling.
mhm,
um and so what are the ways, how do I get back to that state of
mhm.
management? It may not
Yeah,
be like ideal, like, or balanced, but how can I manage where I am right now? Understanding that, like you said, that's going to look different for me every day, depending upon the
yes,
circumstances. And that's going to be the same across person, across time, across
yeah,
everything.
yeah. There's the idea of like fake it till you make it, but the like
Hmm.
psychological way to look at it, if people like language, is like behavioral activation.
Mm,
And so it's like the ways that we just force ourselves to do the things that normally bring us joy. And eventually we do go, okay, I can
mhm,
exist here.
mhm,
Um, that's something I've been doing for myself,
mm,
especially after this kind of grief. It's like, no, I actually would like to stay on my sofa and ignore all y'all, but I will go to this event. I will go to this party or whatever. Do you ever find yourself having to navigate some behavioral activation?
every day. Uh, every day, every single day. Yeah, I think it goes back to like we were talking about building the muscle. Um, because if unfortunately in in training, I'm learning that if I want a muscle to grow, that means I have to break down what was there, and that hurts. Um, and so, but what grows back is stronger.
Mhm,
So, going back to, thinking about my brother, like, on the anniversary of my brother's passing in June, for the first 5 years, I would sit in a dark room and just be miserable because I felt like I did not have the strength or the capacity to try to do anything else because you relive the conditions every year. You think
yeah,
about where you were, what you were doing, and all of it just comes back. It's, and whether you want it to or not, it's like the mind involuntarily takes you through this torturous deja vu where you have to relive this horrible, treacherous thing that happened to you,
It's
and
like
you feel
Groundhog's
it.
Day.
Yeah, you feel it. Like you feel it in your body. Like I feel my heart beating fast. I feel everything that I felt in 2016 when it happened. And so to your point around behavior activation, I had that time and I needed that time to just let my body do what it needed to do. But I would say about 3 years ago, I really wanted to try. I heard my brother, sometimes I hear his voice. And not that
Mm-hmm.
he's actively talking to me, but like, I think about how I'm reminded of sort of like what he would say
Mm-hmm.
in a situation. Um Tangent, but just let me.
I
I
love
was
it.
at a wedding shortly after he passed. I was at a wedding, and um, the bride had a dance with her siblings.
Mm.
I had to go.
Yeah. I would have been like,
Couldn't,
no, not
I
for me
couldn't
today.
hang. I couldn't hang. So I went out in the hallway and was trying to keep myself from having an emotional breakdown at these people wedding. And I heard my brother say, I wasn't gonna dance with you no way. So, and it made me laugh. It made me laugh, right?
Yeah.
And so similarly, I'm thinking about the anniversary of his passing, and I heard him, I felt him say, like, you doing this, and I know this is hard, but I'm not asking you to do this. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to feel like you have to be in this dark and heavy place every year. I'm not asking you to do that. And so it was like, okay. And something in me said that I need to try to honor my brother's life by trying to live mine. He wouldn't want me to stop living. I don't feel like he would have that expectation of me. And so since then, I've been trying, regardless of how it felt in my body, I've been trying to honor his life by living mine and doing something that he would want me to do. So I will go on a trip.
Mm-hmm.
I will, if I'm going to grieve, I'm going to try to, at least grieve in a beautiful place with wonderful weather. Um, and good
Listen.
food and drinks. And so I now have, I honor, I think about the anniversary of my brother's passing by having, and I call it like my little grief retreat,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
because that's the day, that's the time where I give myself the space to have my feelings. And that doesn't mean that I'm not sad and miserable, but I try. And so to your point about behavior activation, like I need to try to do this
Mm-hmm.
until it feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I trick myself all the time. I'll be like, if you go do this
Yeah.
thing, it might be fun. There
Who
might be a
knows?
check. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Find the motivation that feels good for
Yeah.
you.
Gotta do it.
Um, I would miss a spot in this conversation if we didn't talk about mental health.
Mm,
As two queens, goddesses, everyone is welcome for our existence, that have studied psychology.
mm,
Um, I am a child of trauma, as
mm,
everyone that knows. And if you heard, my mother was killed in front of me when I was one.
mhm,
So all I've known
mhm,
is trauma. I am
mhm,
the birthing of this thing. And I didn't realize I knew how important mental health was because I'd been doing the things to like
mhm.
help myself. But it really hits when you get older and you're like, oh no, I need to take care of my mental health.
For
So,
sure.
when did you realize? Was it
Yeah.
before psychology,
Yeah.
after your brother's life? I don't know.
It was definitely, so I studied psychology, got degrees in psychology, but never had a therapist. It was definitely losing my brother that sort of prompted my sort of commitment to my own mental health. So I had a grief counselor sort of just to help me sort of wrap my brain, because again, like I was saying before, I am not okay if I don't understand, right? So I
I
needed
need
somebody to
answers.
I needed somebody to talk me through this. Like, just
Sure.
what in the hell is going on? You have to explain. I need tools. I need information. So I started to see a grief counselor, and it was like, okay, this person is going to help me understand my grief so that I can manage it. But I got into the grief counseling, and she was like, I think you're through. And I was like, excuse me? Through what? Like, she was trying to like graduate me, and I was just like, no.
You said, I don't accept. Try again.
I'm not. No. Excuse me. You trying to leave me? I don't understand what you're saying. Like,
Not breaking up. So
I don't. Whoa. Like what? Like it was. It was very. So that's when I realized that, like, this time, this practice of sitting down and talking through my feelings and getting tools and language and framing for helping me to, was good for my health, because I started to sort of see how it helped me to feel better, and it was connected to other things. And so I transitioned from grief counseling to regular therapy counseling, and sort of have been there ever since. And now, of course, that I've been doing that work, I'm like, my dumb ass should have been doing this years and years ago, many years ago.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that has been, and I want to say this, because I don't know, it just feels pertinent. I grew up in church. My grandfather is a minister. He was a pastor, and he pastored one of the larger churches in my city for all of my life. But he was a career pastor. He pastored for over 40 years. And so I grew up in the church, and I'm a church baby and a baby of faith. And so for a long time there was this like pray your way through sort of framing and concepting, and faith was the answer to all things. And it still is, but I feel like in my journey, and what became clear to me as I was sort of identifying my counselor, and what that was going to look like in my life, I understood that these things can and should coexist.
Yeah.
And so I say that for the other church babies who may be listening, or people who sort of raised up in that tradition or framing, that it is both prayer and therapy. It is both and not either or. And that sort of that was a very key aha for me, because it was like one does not cancel out the other.
Nope.
But they can and should coexist. And it has been awesome. And so my faith, my who I am, who I believe God is, and who I believe I am through God, is really interwoven into my mental health. I have my therapist sort of specializes in sort of that spiritual counseling, and it's been awesome because it really has given new life and new framing and new perspective around things that I had sort of been hearing all my life in church. I now have new understanding, and it's sort of it's made both better. Like it's not so it's just enhanced it for me in a number of ways. So I just can't talk about my mental health without adding that in, because it's a big piece. As I was saying before, processing is sort of the way that I find my way back. And I'm learning now that prayer is often sort of how I steady myself. Prayer is the way that I process things with myself and with God. And that is what sort of gets me out of that panic. Oh my God, what's going on place. And, it's not always in the conventional ways that we've been trained to pray, but I talk to God very candidly, just like I'm talking to you. Like, do you see what's going on here? Hello? What you finna do?
Listen, I'd be like, so are we playing a game? Or
And be like, so what you finna do about it? Okay, because
I just feel like I have questions and you're not answering them
anytime you
fast
want to
enough.
step on in here and do your God thing, I'm down with that. Like, yeah.
Do your
So,
best, as you tell
yeah,
me.
I'm gonna get right on out the way. So, yeah, I feel like my answers are very long. I apologize. I'm rambling.
Apologize. I think they are very full, and that's what we like here, fullness. I do believe, like, when I was when I was raped, because I like to say raped instead of sexually assaulted. I've been sexually assaulted more times than I can account for, but I've been raped once that I truly count. Um, and when I was navigating that, fuck school, fuck being deaf,
Period.
but it just
Everything.
consumed.
Yes.
And I say that because I went spiritual
Mm.
before I went to a therapist.
Mm.
Right? Like, I felt like I needed to get right with me and understand me and get back into my body. And like you said, to find the words, find the language, and then go and be like, all right, my therapist, shout out to Betty. We still together,
Yes.
girl.
Mhm.
Uh, Betty was like, okay, here's the
Mhm.
things. But I showed up like, I learned how to meditate. I learned how
Mm.
to hear myself. I learned how to
Mhm.
question the
Yes.
things.
Mhm.
So important
Very. And
to
it's a
have
step that
something.
we run right past that oftentimes, right? Because I think in a lot of our original conceptualizations of like religion, religious practice, God, people wrap that up in like what you can't do or what you're not supposed to do. Or at least my understanding, or my I won't say my understanding, but a lot of my original default programming was, more about God's expectations of who we are, who we weren't
Mm,
supposed to be, how we weren't supposed to show up. And so it felt very legalistic. But it
mm,
was through sort of, you know, through these through the marriage of sort of mental health and my relationship with God, it helped me to sort of see and understand that God is so much bigger than
mm,
this list of things that are forbidden, or
mm.
what people expect or don't expect. And it's cultivated a relationship. And so that takes the legalism away, because if I love you, I want to do the things that make you happy. I want to do the things that bring you joy. I want, and same, like
Reciprocal. Yeah.
reciprocal. So it is those are the things that have been sort of new perspective that I've been able to glean, that
Yeah.
has been that I treasure, that I cherish so much, because it personalizes that relationship. It's like, everyone says I love God, but it's like, no, I love God. I spend time with him. Uh, we are close. He talks to me, I talk to him. Like, we go together real bad.
Oh, I love this for us. Have you, while navigating, we talk about there's trauma within everything. Me. I also talk in third person sometimes. I blame it because
That's
I'm a
fine.
Gemini.
Hey.
Um, and so we talk about like, within grief and
Mm-hmm.
within like school and all of these things, there's traumatic things everywhere. I have had to unlearn a lot of things to exist in this world now.
Mm-hmm.
How have you navigated unlearning to exist, to be the person you are, not the person necessarily that people consumed, or
Mm.
the people that, to be the person you are, but not necessarily the way that people might imagine you to be?
Mm. Awesome question. I think so I study transformation. I study how individuals and organizations transform to sort of uh to embody the values that they espouse. A lot of times
Mm,
we say, you know, or I'll do this, organizations say, we are equitable. And it's like, okay, how? Like,
mhm,
and so then when you start to dig into that, we start to see the dissonance between who you say you want to be and who you are. And so my work is about understanding what people need to know, and what skills and practices and competencies, and what are the things that help to close that gap. And so I say that to say, I believe that our lives
mm,
who we are is sort of a journey in like manner, right? We all have, well, I have goals of the kind of person that I want to be. And speaking of sort of prayer, one of the things I pray and and say often when I'm talking to God is, Lord, make me. I want to be who you had in mind when you said, I'm going to make me a Kia one day. When you were thinking about, I'm going to make me a Tykeia and she will do this, I want to be that. Because when we enter the world, we start to learn who we are by virtue of what other people tell us who we are, what we're supposed to be doing. And if we're not careful, we'll keep our head down and sort of just keep operating in those roles, never giving ourselves the opportunity to sort of allow our original programming to manifest, to bloom. And so I want to say a victim of that, but I guess that's the word that came to my mind, because I was so beholden to being a good daughter, a good student, a good friend, a good partner, a good employee, a good Christian, I was so bogged down with what other people said I was supposed to be, that I stopped giving myself permission to say, I'm Tykeia and I like yellow nail polish and big earrings and fried chicken. Like, I never allowed myself to make my own choices and decide what I want. And so I had to learn that. And it is an ongoing process of me still learning that. Because I'll tell you how I knew that I had it real bad. Every time it was time to make a decision, I needed a committee of people to help me to decide what to do for me in my house. What color you think I should paint the walls? Well, what kind of nail polish do you think I should get? I'm getting my nails done today. Here are some options. Let me know what you think. I would let other people make decisions for me.
You just spoke to somebody and they said, shut
And
up.
I realized that it's like, girl, what do you want? What do you want? My therapist, one of my therapists, she would ask me, okay, what do you like to do for fun? And I would just start riddling off all of the things that I did for other people, or all the things, well, that's work. Okay, well, I like to, call my mama. And she was like, no. What do you like to do? So
I like to call my mama.
to show me, like, she had to show me that, girl, you're not talking about yourself. You're talking about other things that you do for other people. And she started challenging me. Do you do that because you want to? Or do you do that because you're supposed to?
How was that?
Horrendous. Was terrible. I felt exposed. I felt stupid. Because I'm not talking that this was happening when I was 22. Jiminica, this was happening like 2 years ago. Like,
listen,
I was
it doesn't
39.
matter the big age. They will
I was
for you.
39 and the girls was like, well, what you want to do? And I was like, well, what y'all want to do? Like, so, Miss Sharon would be like, no, girl, what do you want to do? And she would not let us leave that conversation until I answered the question. So in all of that, I feel like I am unlearning that programming. And realizing that it was connected to so many other things. I lack the confidence in my own decision making. I have been disappointed by so many things in my life that I no longer trusted my own decisions. And that was a painful place to realize that I was, but I've been working myself out of that. And allowing myself to unlearn those habits. Going to the club. I went to the club for 10 years. Hated it. Every time.
Don't invite me to the club. I don't want to go.
Like it. But I felt like everybody else was going. I needed to be where the people were.
Yeah.
Well, they wanted to go. They keep inviting me. I guess I got
My
to
mom
show
used to
up.
tell me, you don't have to go everywhere that you're invited. And I was like, I think I do.
I feel like
they
I
want me
should.
there.
I mean, and what if they don't want me there? That would be terrible. So I have to go. But
They're gonna stop inviting me.
Yeah. So I've been giving myself permission to say no, really checking in and making sure. And I'm still doing it. And me and Jay were talking on the show a couple of weeks ago. Is one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm older and my body is changing. And I'm also cleaning and purging and sort of getting my house together. And I'm going through old clothes and realizing, like, girl, what was you on when you bought this? Girl,
I
where
don't
was you
like that
going?
game.
Like,
It's
what is happening?
start judging myself.
It's like so harshly,
Are
right?
you
And
good?
so it's like, why did you do this? And I'm giving away things that had tags on it. And again, realizing that all of this connects back to, and I was dressing trying to look like somebody else or look like how people expected me to look. And so even now, I'm working on defining my personal style. How do I want to show up like Tykeia? I don't care what the trends is doing. I don't care what the girls is on. How do I embrace, learn to love the body that I have,
Mm.
celebrate that body by making it look as good as I can? And what does that look like for me? I'm not watching nobody's Pinterest boards. I'm not following no influencers to tell me how to dress my body, but I am making decisions on what I want my personal style to be. So all of that, again, super long answer. I'm just all over the place, but that is sort of that unlearning. That is sort of exactly where I am right now, because you don't realize how deep that programming is down in you until
Yeah.
somebody starts to ask you, well, why? Well, why are
You're
you
like,
doing
what?
it like that?
Who?
Well, why? It's like, why are you in my business? Why are you asking me these questions? But yeah, that's it's
No,
terrible.
I think it is so real though. Like the process of unlearning is
Mhm.
always going to be a thing, right?
And it's
Like
it's how we
I love
become
it.
who we are. It's how
I
we
love
become who we are.
aging. Like you know
I'm
how people are like,
starting
ugh.
to.
I'm like,
I'm starting to really dig it. And I think it's because I am, for the first time in my life, allowing myself to really like myself. Not pick her apart, not compare her to anybody else. To be okay by myself, to spend time with myself, and not worrying about what other people are thinking about me. And I'm learning to dig that. It's like it's kind of lit over here. What? My house, I love it here. Who wouldn't want to be here? I love it here.
yeah. We come into the end of this, but there's a word that you brought up that also really resonates with me, and it was permission.
Mm,
Like giving yourself permission to do things, because I say it to my clients. There's also we say these things to people all day. You be like, girl, why you didn't, that's crazy, and then you be like, I'm fine over here. I
yeah.
don't even need permission. But like we do need to have these talks. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a client before this, and we were talking about some stuff, and I was like, when that voice comes, do you talk back to it? And she was like, what? I
Mm.
said, do you talk back to it? Because it's not expecting you to fight back, it's just expecting to consume you. So
Yeah.
we about to tussle, and I want that permission. And for me it's like power. It
Yeah.
like powers me up, like, no, you're not about to get me today. I'm about to get
Yeah.
out this bed, depression.
Yes. 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 You don't call the shots. I do, girl.
Charge. So thank
Great.
you, you're allowed to be here. Okay, 2 questions left.
Okay.
Self-care and self-soothing.
Hmm.
How do you care for yourself on a daily? Because you're busy, you're out
I
here,
am busy.
you are navigating work, you got podcasts, you got relationships, you got existence, you got to maintain that blonde. Here's the
Mm.
thing. How are we doing all? I've been blonde, I know it's a maintenance.
Yes,
Uh,
girl. It's a labor of love. Yes.
what does self-care look like for
Hmm.
you? What does
It's,
soothing things look like for you? I'm
this is a
challenging you. Here we are.
yes. So you see me folding in because I'm like, girl, I am awful at this. But I self-care. Self-care, I need to rely on routines.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm the kind of person that if it's not built in, I'm not gonna do it. And
Mm,
so I try to be very regular in my self-care in terms of sort of also the maintenance of the things that I do that make me feel good. Like I like to get my toes done and I like to keep my nails done. I like to get my hair done. So I have people, I have a team, and I have standing appointments that are, you know, so like every Friday at 9:45 I get a haircut. You know, when I have my color, like every 6 to 8 weeks, you know, I have a standing, you know, I just call Tania. It's like, I'm coming. All right, bet. I see you when you get here. Same for nails, same, you know, standing. It's like, it's got to be built in. Like this is happening every week. And I'm blessed that, you know, my life is set up in a way where I can keep that up. But also I'm very intentional. When I was in grad school, I was very much in school in all ways. I didn't have no money. I didn't have no life. I was in school. And so when I graduated, it was like, well, what you gonna do now with all this time and all these resources? And my therapist called me out again because that's what she loved to do. She loved to be in my business in that way. And she was like, you know, you've been in school for 10 years. Let's say all these years, you never took a vacation. And I'm just like, I mean, that's true, but like, so, and she was like, so you owe yourself vacation. Like you got back vacations that you need. Like, you know, you, and I also had a postdoc. Yeah. Like I had a postdoc after my doc program where I really didn't have the funds to be vacationing. So I wasn't, so she was like, you owe yourself a vacation for every year you was in grad school, every year you was in your your postdoc. And so like, you know, she makes me tell her when I'm gonna take time off. And I have accountability partners. It's one of my friends that also works with me at the Gates Foundation, you know, and we're blessed at the Gates Foundation to have unlimited PTO. So we have a reminder every quarter. She will ping me and be like, when are you utilizing your benefits? And that means tell me the dates that you're taking off this quarter. And it's like, so, you know, having people to hold me accountable, my therapist, Tiffany, other people that are asking me, like, are you doing this? That is sort of what helps me to sort of maintain that self-care. Have you gotten a massage this month? No. Okay, well, schedule it. And then send me back the confirmation so I know you did it. And because people know how I'm set up, right? I'll be like, yeah, girl, I do it, and then don't do it, right? So
they said, that's cute. I want a receipt.
Yeah. Real quick, self-soothing. I think I let my emotions emote however they need to. I'm always been, all my life, I've been a crier. And I would try to suppress that because people think you weak and they can beat you up when you cry. And
I
so,
wasn't allowed to cry. I cried too much for a while, as I heard. And I learned how to cry again. I just be crying. It's
I just
Tuesday.
let
Why not?
myself cry. And I learned, my therapist helped me to sort of see crying is the body's outlet. It's how it gets back to homeostasis. So you're not crying because you're a punk. You crying because you worked up and your body trying to get you back down here with the rest of us. And so I let myself cry. I cry on planes. I cry in the Target. I sit here at this chair and cry. I will cry. And even if I'm about to beat your behind, it's gonna be a crying, like, you know, me and Jay was saying, I'm finna cry, but you finna get this work. So I let myself emote freely. I've been sobbing through the Olympics. I mean, it's just been a thing. So that is how I self-soothe. Crying and prayer. Prayer is how I steady myself. So I got a prayer journal. It's nothing for me to open up a document at work. Then people get on my nerves. I'm gonna open up a doc and be like, all right, Lord, let me look like I'm working, but I'm really telling the Lord, I'm finna go upside her head. So praying and crying is how I self-soothe. And shopping. I love to buy myself beautiful things, but that's another conversation for another day.
I'm not a shopper, thank God. Because if
that's
I
why
was,
I say
I'd be poor.
I love all things fabulous. If I could show you all of the ways that I have been purging, I'm just embarrassed about how much, and especially during COVID, I was just in here swiping my car with reckless abandon. It was very,
I was like, we might die. Might as well be happy.
I'm gonna just get these shoes and bags because that's what would make me happy. Yes.
This has been so fun for me. And it also, listen, let me tell you, I was just in an email looking at going back to this grad school program that I got kicked out of. And I was just talking to these people. And first off, they didn't change the program. They were like, oh, we don't have this, but you can transfer 4 classes. That's already. I was like, well, give me more information because that's crazy because I took about
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
8 to
It's like
12.
what I'm
Four
supposed
is
to do.
crazy.
What?
That's crazy. Um, but I think this conversation is going to be so helpful to a lot of people because we've been here. And side note, because we love a side
Mm-hmm.
note, the first college I ever spoke at
Yeah.
was the one you were at. I spoke at in a classroom for Erica Hart.
Oh wow.
And that was the first at Columbia. That was the first college I ever spoke
Yeah.
at. And I was like, oh,
Yes.
that's so funny.
Come
Okay,
on.
well we've touched and tapped and zibbled around. And my last question of the show, everybody that listens knows it's because I'm nosy and because we talk about wild things that go all over. So,
Mm.
what is the wildest thing that someone has texted, DM'd, or emailed
Nice.
you in the
Wow.
last 2 weeks? Relative for wild. It could be whatever.
Mm. Okay, so this is hard because I have a few relationships in my life that are maintained solely through sending memes back and forth on Instagram.
Sure. Sure.
Because I think this is how we sort of process and just sort of keep up with things, and we love to sort of share in that kind of mess. So I see all kinds of things every day. I don't know if it's wild. It's probably not going to be wild to most, but I felt seen by it. So I will
Okay.
say, I
I'm
will
ready.
say this. This is the thing that came to mind. So there is this gift. There's this meme of this like this woman. She's probably an evangelist of some sort. She's in church and she's at the podium, and she's saying the yoke of the devil is destroyed, right? And then somebody has overlaid that with Jadakiss, we gonna make it. So it's like she says the yoke of the devil is destroyed, and then it says fuck the frail shit, right? And so it's like this is so me because
You said,
I
who put this together for me?
I will send it to you. I'm like, somebody was thinking about me because this is me. Because both these are the two things that can be true at the same time for me every time. Right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to go there and in prayer, but we can also go there in any other
Listen,
kind of way. So
listen.
that's probably corny, but
No, I liked it. There's
that
nothing corny about that.
I'm gonna send it to you. I'm gonna send it to you so that you can see.
Okay.
Maybe you can insert it for the people, so that they can have a reference. But
I'll give it to
it
Chris.
it was one of the craziest things. I actually posted it to my stories. Like, wow, I've just never felt more seen by a meme. It's like going into August, like fuck the frail shit, but also going into the August, like the yoke of the devil is destroyed because he doesn't have any business around me. Get out of here with your messy self. So yes,
Ooh, this was great. This was
thank you
fantabulous.
so much for having me. I am
Yes.
always honored when people will open their platforms up to me. And I pray that I've said something that has been useful to someone
It's
somewhere.
somebody. Okay. Well, where can he, they, she,
Right.
them, they, z, everybody, all the
Mhm.
pronouns, where can they find
Everyone.
you and get your business?
Everyone, y'all can get in my business. I'm on Instagram at Tykeia Nicole, TYKEIA NICOLE. That's the national middle name of Black girls born in 1982. If you did not know that, Tykeia Nicole at Tykeia Nicole on Instagram. I'm also a co-host on the Getting Grown podcast with my sister Jade, where we talk about all things adulting, the good, the bad, the ugly, the test, the trials, the twists, the turns, the temptations, and the taxes of being an adult in the year of our 2024. We're always down there kicking and carrying on and keeping up some mess. Um, Yeah, I mean, it's called X now, but I'll never stop calling it Twitter.
Not doing that.
Cause girl, what? Not doing that.
Refuse.
Stupid. It's very dumb. Very, very dumb. I need to change my Twitter name. I wanted to make it the same as my Instagram name. It's still the same Twitter name that I had back in 2009, but all the girls are over there. And we have a good time. It's nothing but treble. NOTHIN BUTTREBLE. Nothing but treble on Twitter. I'm gonna try to change that, but that's where you can find me in the meantime and in between time. And yeah. Otherwise, I'll be sitting right here in this black chair at this desk typing real fast because
managing your black business.
That's right.
With your black job.
That's right. That's right. That's right. But thank you for having me.
Great, of course. Well, you know what to do. Do the things, and until next time.